All right, so today we're going to be having a conversation about parish fundraising. Today I'm going to be talking with Stefan. He's from the Archdiocese of Edmonton, so he's the donor engagement lead. And yeah, I'll just hand it right off to you.
Well, thank you, Ben. When you approached me to do something for your parishes in the fundraising area, I got pretty excited because I've only been here for 6 months and it's one of the tools that I was thinking about. Although this presentation will have a Together We Serve logo on it, it is absolutely built for any kind of fundraising that you want to do in your parish. And a few notes, I guess I would say before that is, adapt it to what you need. This is built for a general purpose. So some fundraising efforts will be very small and only require maybe a special event or one small collection, all the way to our Together We Serve in the Catholic Archdiocese, which is year round on a monthly basis and hoping to raise a couple $1 million a year. So anything in between that, please adapt this to your reality. And remember that this is not built for anything specific. It's built for whatever you want it to be. So what I tried to do is reflect on, I guess, my past 25, 30 years in the industry and try to think of things that caught me, things that really got me in the right direction, simple tips, simple tricks, things that I have learned, best practices, special event ideas, things not to forget. So that's kind of the flavor of what you're going to get today. And maybe I should just get into it and move on to slide one, which I titled Best Practices. And I've got about 6 steps here, but really it could be 10 steps. In my previous employer, we had a 10-step guide. So it's perfectly fine for you to reduce the number of steps or make the number of steps higher to make it easier. Whatever makes you understand it more and maybe your committee understand it more is probably what you should do. So reflect on your environment. The first step that I put in there is with any campaign that I do, I always want to learn as much as possible about the organization I'm raising funds for, the project I'm raising funds for, the program that I'm raising funds for. So how do you do that? So Ben, when you have you work on a multitude of different projects there at the eparchy, where do you go to find out that information? Where do you find out, where do you look first to find out everything you need to know about a project or a program that you're going to raise funds for?
Definitely. So I guess especially for parishes, number one is really talk to your ministries, find the needs that are in the parish. If you're a kind of district or rural area, you're going to have to, find, teamwork really, right? If you're a small parish, you're going to have to maybe work with the district. So really know who those contacts are, find the need, and kind of see what people are looking for when it comes to fundraising and what reaches them best.
Absolutely. But simple things like looking on the internet, looking on the website, looking in the paper files about from the people. Hopefully the person, if it's a repeat program, hopefully the person took some notes and put them in a file, which I'm hoping you will do. And it will be one of my recommendations in here is to document everything you can. Just imagine if you walk into to chair a committee and everything from the previous years is already there. You can learn from their mistakes. You know where the opportunity is and can maximize on that opportunity. So please, for the person that'll take over for you in the future, make sure those notes are there. And if they are there for you, please take full advantage of that. So use the internet, use colleagues, use parishes that are doing an amazing job. I'm sure in the eparchy, just like at the Catholic Archdiocese, we have 10 or 15 parishes that always seem to do better than others. Use them as coaches. Call Ben, call myself, say, who are some of the good parishes that we can work with? I have a dream for Together We Serve where I build a matching program where maybe you have a parish that's newer at least in that campaign that can be matched kind of almost on a permanent basis as a coach. Maybe a bigger one with a smaller one, or one that is very advanced in their fundraising, one that's not so advanced in their fundraising. So matching is a great way. But the first step to me is really to research and learn as much as you can so you're comfortable with the content and it doesn't feel like you're really pushing it because you're so knowledgeable. All of a sudden you become passionate because you found out who's being helped, and that translates to your donors and to the people you're trying to raise money from. So making sure you educate yourself.
And two, when it comes to research and learn, for the Ukrainian Catholics as well in Alberta, we have an initiative called Parish Hub. If you check the fundraising section, it's gonna, well, even the entire Parish Hub has a lot of great resources. It will show you how to write an appeal campaign, how to actually do these things. It'll give you examples, it gives you templates, you can edit them directly. You can use them for your parish, and it also has a lot of research. So as an example, it'll show you, well, what type of events are youth looking for, right? It shows you that research that will be very beneficial for your parish. And on top of that, it also contains parish sharing. So it says, well, what are parishes using? As an example, one of the articles is online donations. What programs are they using? And how can you use the eparchy to actually directly embed maybe online donations as part of your plan? Of course, there's a whole bunch of things you can do with Parish Hub, so make sure to check that out as well.
That is an excellent point, to the point where it got circulated in our building yesterday, and everybody was quite excited about what you did there. So congratulations on that. We have something kind of similar in our website, but you have done an amazing job also with the restart for your parishes with the after COVID version of restarting. So great job for that. And I'm happy we're sharing resources because I think that's what this world is all about. Why reinvent the wheel? There are probably over 100,000 charities in Canada. There's probably close to 10,000 in the Edmonton area. Steal from them, borrow, I guess I should say. Ask permission where it makes sense, but you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are people that have been doing parish giving for 2,000 years, so no need to reinvent the wheel. One of the most important things in step 2 to me is to really build the case for support. And the case for support, yes, it can be a humongous document if you're trying to raise $2 million to rebuild a parish that is burned down or whatever the situation is. But it could also be a half-page and a one-page document if you're doing a small campaign. But that's really the list of arguments why people should support this. Why is it important to do this small program in a rural parish somewhere? So talk to the people around you, look at the history, look at the need, look at who will be helped by these programs, what changes will be made, what's the impact on the parish if we do this. But build a strong case for giving, and that case will help you write letters, it'll help you put pieces on your website, it'll help you with social media, it'll help you with all kinds of things that you need in your campaign. But start with building that case for support. The other thing I would say in step 3 is you don't need to do this alone. Yes, there will be campaigns where you are the entire committee, and that is okay. But if you do have an opportunity, recruit some help. And I've seen a couple approaches in recruiting folks. Some people recruit folks for the entire thing. So meaning you're going to be in the committee, you're going to come to a bunch of meetings, you're going to participate in almost all aspects of the fundraising campaign. But I know some people are really, really busy. So what I've learned over the years is not everybody needs to be on the full committee. I always add some people that I know were excellent at certain aspects. And if I went to them and I said to them, can you come and just MC our kickoff? Because you're really good at that, at engaging the crowd, without bothering them with the whole 6-month project or 3-month project or 2-month project. Or maybe they're really good with numbers. Maybe they're the accountant in your group, and you just want them to do the final report and make sure that the spreadsheet is correct, or make sure they update the thermometers as the donations come in and count all this stuff. So don't always scare people, especially the really, really busy ones. By the way, the busiest people tend to shy away from them. they get things done. That's why they're busy. So don't avoid the busy people because you just think they're busy and they won't have time. They will get it off their desk very fast. And it's often the people that have all the time in the world are sometimes the people that will procrastinate on projects. So another learning tidbits that I've learned over my 25 years, but consider skills that will complement yours. That's an important fact. I'm only good at certain things. I'm not good at the math part. But so I surround myself with people that will complete the skills that I bring. As you can see, I bring the energy and the passion and the motivation in most committees that I participate in. But there are many skills that I've learned over the years, but they're not my favorite things to do. And other people are much better than me at them. So I can look like a star if I surround myself with the right people. And that was really the point here. Provide an orientation for them, assign specific role, meet regularly as a goal, and set goals. I always told people, and we'll talk about goals a little bit more later, but set goals that challenge you. I'd rather set a goal of 200,000 and get to 190,000 because I fought my way all the way there, or maybe let's make it 5,000 to make it more realistic for a small parish. I may set a goal of 5,000 that is a real stretch for me and get to 4,800. But maybe if I set a goal of 2,000, I get very happy at 2,000 and I only raise 2,500. So be careful how you set your goals. They should be achievable if you can, but they should also be realistic and challenging. And those are important factors in your goal setting. And I would also encourage you, especially if you get deeper into recurring campaigns that come back year after year, to set other kinds of goals, not just financial goals. So those goals could be number of new donors. Those goals could be an average gift that you want per contributor. Those goals might be to get 5 people to give $1,000 for the first time or $100 for the first time. So setting different kinds of goals will really gather you and your committee towards the right outcomes, and really and communicate those goals. Don't just keep them to yourself. Share them with your committee. Share them with your entire parish if you want to, and utilize bulletins and other things. So maybe let's move on to the next slide, so I don't go on for 2.5 hours. Choose a method for your campaign. So there are many ways to raise money. These are just a few items that I listed here, but cash and monthly donations. And I know, Ben, you're really keen in learning a little bit more about making it easy for folks, and we can talk about that as we move along. I'm a big fan of recurring gifts. Recurring gifts meaning you're signing up now for $100 a month, which is $1,200 a year. It's great. You get one tax receipt, lots of advantages. You don't even feel the $100 coming off your bank account or your credit card if you want some nice traveling points or something of that nature. But really, at the end of the day, making them recurring so they continue until the donor tells you to stop. What I would suggest to that is have a system in place where maybe at a minimum, when you send the tax receipt at the end of the year, you give them an opportunity to learn about new things that are going on in your parish or in your eparchy, and give them an opportunity to increase that gift or to reflect on that gift with their family on an annual basis, because it's great you're getting $1,200 a year for a long time, but $1,200 now and $1,200 20 years from now is a very different kind of $1,200. So having a chance to increase and learn more and be thanked and be cultivated as a donor, I think is also very key as we do that. But you could do all kinds of other campaigns. You could do product drives. Right now, for example, the Bissell Center is looking, and many organizations that deal with the homeless are looking for water bottles and all kinds of different things to help them through this very hot period that we're experiencing in the Edmonton area. So you could have product drives for St. Vincent de Paul, for all kinds of, even for your own parish. You probably have people in need in your own parish where you could do product drives. Special events and fundraisers are always fun. People don't always feel like they're giving a donation because they're getting something in return. So that's always an easy way to get to the non-pressure donors that that people like to chat about. Pledging, so making a commitment now to give so much a year for the next 5 years or 10 years, or until I ask you to stop. So those are always good things, as long as you have systems in place to follow up with those things and make sure they actually happen. Um, of course, raffles, auctions, many different ways of raising funds. Also want to promote and advertise your campaign. So you can plan the best campaign in the world, but if you keep it to yourself, it's not going to go very far. The good news is in the parish, we have lots of tools already that we can utilize and at very low cost. Of course, you can buy advertising if it's a huge campaign. You can do collaborations with media outlets or social media or other businesses if you want to. But even within the parish, you have bulletins, you have websites, you can print flyers, you can you have the mailing list of all of your parishioners. Utilize that, inform them. And I would even say start promoting before you start raising funds so that people know it's coming and it doesn't come all at once where they have to learn everything that you've learned and then try to make a decision if they want to contribute to that. So having small pieces as you go, kind of like, oh, there's a campaign coming. Here's a little bit of information. Oh, then there's a testimonial coming out of somebody that got help because of a similar program. And then, oh, all of a sudden there's an ask for a contribution. So promote and advertising your important dates, your kickoff, special events if you're having some of those, reporting progress on some of the fundraising you're doing, and using leaders. I always tell people to use their leaders. They may not be on your committee. It'd be great if they are on your committee and want to participate fully. I've even seen priests being on committees. Sometimes they're excellent, sometimes they're too busy. But utilizing your leaders so that your parishioners know that leadership thinks that this is a great thing, whether that be deacons or council members or priests or other parts of your parish, the people that everybody looks up to. If they are visible in your campaign, even just being at the kickoff to show their support can make a huge difference in your campaign. And then the last step here, and of course you can make more steps, but evaluate and document your campaign. So many of you will start your fundraising effort probably with absolutely nothing. So imagine if you could leave something for the next person, that would be awesome. Chances are you also have to report. So I'm assuming, Ben, you report to somebody in your eparchy when you're doing a fundraising effort. So you're going to need to document for that anyways. So anything that you think you would report to your supervisor or to the parish council or anything like that, your spreadsheet, your little case that you build, your name of the committee members with their contact information, all of that stuff, save it on the portal, save it in a paper file, save it on send it to Ben or myself, and we'll save it in a folder at our own level for the next person if that's the only thing that you have available. But sharing and celebrating and reporting your final results and documenting all of that is certainly that. So this is kind of the end of the 6 steps. So I was just sorry about that. I was going to give you an opportunity to reflect on those 6 steps and tell me if you have any questions.
So I just really want to drive the point home, especially I know parishes do a really good job of fundraising often, but they often forget about the before you start fundraising and after you end fundraising. So you got to really promote and talk about, maybe if you're having an annual appeal, right? Every year at the end of the year towards Christmas, you send out a letter that's an annual appeal. Remember beforehand, right? 3 months, 4 months before, plan ahead for that. Make sure you have your team ready. Also important is make sure you have addresses. So make sure you update addresses and email addresses and all contacts in your parish before you send out these appeals and before you start your fundraising, because that's going to be the most effective because people move.
Absolutely.
And on top of that too is like thanking donors at the end. Like this one is huge. And I know often in parishes, we sometimes forget about this stage, but really going to the people who have been donating to you. I know one of the last events I organized, the Bishop's Gala, every single time someone had donated, I sent an email. It was during COVID, of course, so I couldn't actually personally thank them, but I sent them an email. I personalized it. I used their first names. I said, hey, thanks for your support. I told them exactly where the funds were going. I told them, how much we appreciated them in backing us. And I gave them a little call to action at the end of the thank you, giving more information, saying, hey, I know you support us now. This is what we're going to do with your support, and this is what we're planning on the future. So it's really leading them to the next step. What is the next step after they support you at that time? What's maybe possibilities in the future, how they could support you in the future. And it's not always financial, right? Sometimes it can be volunteers, right? Sometimes if you're running a gala, maybe it's, hey, thanks for supporting us. We really appreciate that you're helping us out. Maybe someone else who might be interested. Maybe you could forward them this email of this brochure, or you could say, hey, maybe your kids might be interested in volunteering, right? Maybe you get the kids involved, so they could help out in the gala or something. So it's not just the financial, but it's also, leading them to also take action and to really enact your mission. That's a big one too, parishes can remember.
Ben, you sure have learned a lot in how many months have you been there now? I'm 6 months now. But
about a year or so.
You have learned a lot and described in a little bit of a nutshell the most important things. So that to me means that people are listening, and that's really what it's all about. When you said thanking the donors, I would say thank everybody then. Thank your leadership for participating in the event. Thank your volunteers. Thank your donors. Thank the guy that designed your posters for you or whatever it might be. And kids are often voluntold instead of volunteered, but they can absolutely be very helpful. I got a couple teenagers myself that I involve in certain things as I go. And also, you don't have to have the most sophisticated database to run your campaign. People do it off spreadsheets. Canada Help is a great product that has been really, really very effective for us here, especially that we don't have a ton of people that work with our database. We have one person for the entire diocese that works on database. So having tools like Canada Help, where people can build their own little campaign, everything is done, it's sent directly to you. They do the tax receipt, they do everything that you need. And really all you need to do is set up an account and a page, almost like a website. And there are other tools out there, but there are certainly many things that you can do. As far as your donors, your points are so important. Cultivating the donors, the small things matter. It's not just a thank you, it's what's next to bring them closer to you. And I am developing right now something called moves management. And it's mostly for major gift donors, but I mean, major donors can be at any level depending on where you are. For us, maybe it's $5,000 or $10,000 donors. I'm not sure yet. But moves management is about rating your donors. And you can do that with a small number of donors. Maybe you have 100 donors in a parish. It's really about rating them on how close they are to being ready for that big ask. And really, you could do a very simple rating system that says they have this much capacity, they are this close to the archdiocese or the eparchy, they have donated in the past 2 years, whatever you want it to be. You set some criteria, and then you see the cream rise up to the top. And really, for the other ones, what you do is you come up with a list of moves, and those moves can be very simple. Inviting them to an event, participating in one of their events that they're having. Maybe you make sure you go to their child's first communion, sending them an article on a subject that we've talked about, and I know is of real big interest to you, Ben, because we were talking about last week, and then I saw something, I send it to you, and it goes into your toolbox. Those are all things that donors remember. Moves can be very simple. But finding ways to do something versus doing nothing is really the key. So maybe we'll move on to some tips and tricks that I've accumulated over the year. And look at the first one. You said, thank you, thank you, thank you. I made it kind of silly here, but don't be afraid to ask. the number one reason why people don't give is not because they don't care, it's because they haven't been asked. And I know in your messages to me and your little notes, you wanted to talk about non-pressure giving, but there's ways to ask without putting the pressure. When you bring to them the arguments and you bring to them the history of the program and what the money's going to do and stories about real people and a few stats, it makes it easy to ask. Also, donating yourself, believing in the project to the point where you're donating your own money and before you go ask other people is a great way to build that confidence that I'm coming to you to ask you, maybe even for a certain amount. Maybe I'm a leadership donor and I give $1,000 a year or whatever it is. I can only feel confident doing that because I've explored it myself, right? So asking, giving time. Some people will make a decision on the spot and give you an amount right there. And some people I've seen will give you their credit card right there and say, hey, you go and you do it right now. All the way to people that need time to reflect with their families, with their spouse, with their own thinkings. Everybody thinks differently. I'm a blue, I act with my heart. Right? So bring me a story, bring me something that pulls at the heartstring, and you're probably going to get me pretty quickly. And then there's the engineering type, or if you've done colors, the green type, that will want to think of every angle of it before they make that decision and decide how much they're going to give. And for them, it may not be the heartstring. It may be that you're an effective fundraiser and your fundraising cost is low, although that's the last thing I want to talk about. It's often the first thing the donor wants to talk about. And if that's a challenge for you, Ben, I've got a great TED Talk that I can send you that talks about that. But again, thanking everybody. Also, it's very important to be yourself. I've seen people on committees, I've been doing this for many years, where people try to be a different person when they're in that persona. They try to be like the guy next door. People give to people. So be yourself, be creative, have fun. What are the first three letters of fundraising? Fun. Put the fun back into it, even if it's fun with your committee. Making it so it's not so stressful and just about the $50,000 you're trying to raise. It's about bigger than that. It's about making an impact on the people around you, and having fun will make a huge difference.
Yeah,
Go
just
ahead.
on that though, just to interrupt you there, but
Yeah.
just to approach fundraising in kind of a non-pushy way, don't be a cheesy car salesman, right? Don't, like, you're fundraising for a reason. You're fundraising to impact human lives, especially with parish ministry. You're not fundraising to make money, right? That's not the goal. Your end goal is a lot bigger than that. So even if you're a small rural parish, right, you have two approaches. Say you need new pews, right? You're fundraising for new pews. You could either go in and say, hey, we need $5,000 for pews. We need money, 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 right? Well, you're not fundraising for money, right? You go in and say, hey, you know, we have some seniors who can't stand for the whole divine liturgy, and we'd like them to feel comfortable and, you know, come to divine liturgy and feel welcome in our parishes. And to do that, we need new pews. So you're not looking at the money and you're not pushing money. You're pushing impact, human lives, you know, the way people are seeing things, and you can show how directly how your support will impact that. So that's just the big thing if you want to advertise in a non-pushy way. Promote the impact, not the dollars.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm imagining that small $5,000 campaigns to buy a bunch of pews. And really, if you're looking for the heartstring side of people, you will probably go to things like, because of these pews, we're able to get so many people in there, and we're able to preach the word of God, and evangelize and go to things that make sense to them. For the cerebral, more kind of, I guess, green person I was talking about earlier, what you may want to say is, listen, for as little as $700 per pew, we're able, and maybe you break it down into small amounts, and maybe that person is able to buy a pew because we're buying 10 at $500 each, or whatever you decide to do. Or maybe that's where you say it's $500 per pew, and you will get your name in a little plaque in the front, or in our bulletin, or on our website. And each block, and you put a picture of 10 pews. And if somebody can't afford the $500 by themselves, they can go and reach out to their network and come up with a family pew, or we raise altogether $500, and this pew is for everybody that lives on this street that attends this parish. I mean, you can be creative with this kind of stuff, and really, the most important thing to me is if somebody says no. Yes, you can ask them what's the reason behind that, but at the end of the day, don't take it personally. They're not saying no to you. You're not a bad person. You didn't do a bad job. It's just that they decided, based on their own experience and based on what was presented, that this was not the project that they want to fund. So that would be one thing that I would say, is don't take it personally. I've also learned over the years that 20% of people give to nothing. They're just grumpy, and you can probably imagine them right now in your parish. You can ask, but there's a good chance that they're not going to participate. Then there's 20% of people that give to everything. You always go to them first because you know they're going to buy a ticket. You know they're going to be the first one to bring a school backpack full of supplies for a kid, or whatever it is. And those are people that can help you build momentum in your campaign. The 60% that's left, Ben, they're mostly looking for a reason to give. They're looking for somebody to ask, to give them the reasons why they should support this. What kind of recognition I might get out of this? Their tax advantages in doing it this way versus that way. There are many things that you can do, but really your market is that 60% in the middle that you really need to focus on, because the other 20% is going to come in, I promise you. And the other 20% is probably never going to come in. Or one guy might surprise you because you come up with an argument that really made him feel special. But like you said earlier, promoting monthly and recurring giving, that'll make the job easier for the future, as long as you leave an opportunity for increases in there. Using matching gifts can work really, really well. I'll give you an example, and that can be done at a small level or at a very big level. So for example, because of COVID last year, our annual golf tournament was not able to take place. We had all these people that had committed to sponsorship, donations, that one's easy, golfing, silent auction items. So we had all these great people, and our tournament is coming up, and it looks like it's going to be a record year for 2021. But we had to cancel all of that in 2020. So we were lucky enough to get a very generous Catholic to say, I will match anybody that turns that golfing registration, that sponsorship or whatever into a donation, a straight out donation. I will match that up to $50,000. We didn't even have a golf tournament, and we still raised $120,000 without a golf tournament because we had a matching gift. So finding one or two big donors, or one donor. In this case, it was anonymous. We know who it is, but it was anonymous. Not the best. It's better when you can put a company name or a parishioner name or some name behind it, or maybe it's a certain group within the parish. They're going to give that gift anyways, but you're going to communicate it differently, right? You've heard the radiotons and the telethons. They'll say in the next hour, call in Best Plumbing will match every donation dollar for dollar up to $10,000. Well, Best Plumbing is already committed to giving that $10,000. But people love to hear their name, and people love to know that every dollar they give will generate $1.50 or $2 or whatever it might be. In my previous life, our best campaigns always had a matching gift element to it. And maybe it's a matching gift for a certain type of donors, right? So you can tie this to say, we will only match everybody that signs up for monthly giving, right? So then all of a sudden you're increasing your monthly donors, and you're securing the future of your organization. So something that you can use. And on any of these items, please call Ben, call myself. we're happy to talk to you and chat with you. We may not always have the answers, right, Ben? But we'll do our best researching and coming up with somebody that might have that answer for them. I think we're very good at that. So securing your big gift first to create momentum, thanking and recognizing donor. I'm starting to repeat myself. Reach out to others. You're not alone. So always talk to us, provide, get some feedback, get some advice, talk to other parishes. I mentioned this earlier. Your goals should be realistic, achievable, yet challenging. So I don't know how many times I have fought with people that raise $5,000 in their campaign. Then the next year, because they want to be super successful, they set a goal of $2,000 and they achieve 5,000 the previous year. Yeah, of course you're going to meet your goal, but you're not going to maximize your results by doing that, because a lot of people stop giving when your thermometer is full. I even have a strategy where I update my thermometer. I remember being at Alberta Blue Cross where we had a goal of 100,000 and we already knew in advance where the thermometer would be throughout the month, because we knew if we filled it up too quickly, people would just stop giving and we wouldn't maximize our campaign. It's not that we were trying to hide information. It's just that we decided to count the forms only once a week or once every 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden you got momentum and people want to be part of the last 20% to get to the goal. Always the hardest, the last 20%. And sometimes you have to come up with some last minute strategies. The first 20 is usually the easiest, of course, but making sure that you do that. So maybe we'll move on to the next slide. This is a simple one. It's just a reminder that people learn in different ways. We've all, or many of us, have had education in the adult learning kind of field. So some people are looking for heartstring, making sure you provide great stories. Some people would prefer one story about one kid that got help versus knowing that 100,000 people benefited from this. And others would prefer to know that 100,000 people or most of your money actually went to the program versus the admin costs. But knowing that there's different ways of learning, have a variety of things for people. So having stories, stats and numbers, showing them how easy it is to give and participate. Some prefer to be anonymous, others like recognition. Even the ones that say they prefer to be anonymous often like recognition. We're not very good in the Catholic world at naming things and doing recognition, but even simple things like putting a list in a bulletin or putting something on an annual report, or just printing a one-pager to say, this week I would love to recognize these 10 donors that have been giving for 10 years or more to the eparchy. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do. I have a dream of having specific names for specific amounts, especially in Together We Serve, and I'm working on that because that's a bigger year-round kind of campaign. So you can create little clubs like Catholic Heroes, or people that give $1 a day or more, or whatever. It's not that hard to make people feel special, and you can drive your giving based on those things.
And just to add on that too, for the Ukrainian Catholics, if there is a volunteer or an individual in your parish specifically who does amazing work, even, of course, number one, get your pastor to write them a thank you note, just something small like that drives so much impact. Or another way you could do that is we have the Bishop's Thank You campaign. You can directly write down their name, their parish, and how they make your parish vibrant on yeparchy.com. And then you can nominate them. And Bishop David actually writes and sends out letters to parishioners around Alberta just to recognize some of the amazing work that they do in there. So just so you know, letting you know, there are many different ways you can thank people.
Yeah, and that can be done at the parish level, and it could also be done at the archdiocese or the eparchy level. I know for me, anybody that gives 5,000 or more, probably 10,000 or more. I know we're talking big amounts, but I get his grace to make the phone call. We had a brand new donor at $20,000 in our golf event this year. Just came out of nowhere because of of Father Mike McCaffrey that passed away during the last year, and he was a big friend of his. And so when he made that donation, one, we all felt amazing. We're all doing the happy dance that day. But what's important is just sit back and say, what will be impactful for that donor? So not only did we get his grace to give him a phone call and say, thank you very much, and this person is an owner of a big business here in the city, now we have him golfing with his grace at the golf tournament as a thank you for his contribution. So he'll get to spend 4 or 5 hours, probably 6 hours. I don't know how good of a golfer his grace is, but at the end of the day, he'll get to spend very significant time with his grace and some of his colleagues and have an amazing day at our golf tournament. So doing whatever you can do. Meeting with potential donors, find whatever works with them. You'll have some people that will want you to book a meeting in their calendar and have a very official kind of visit. I prefer the casual type, but that's kind of the way I do it. But meet them the way they want to meet. Try to work on their schedules. So if a nighttime meeting is required, then make that work. Right now, make Zoom work or make whatever needs to work kind of thing. Pick up the phone. Personal handwriting is another tip that I will give you. There's nothing in this world today. We all work by Zoom and official letters and electronic signatures. I sign all of the thank you letters personally, one by one. And if I know the person, I'll write a little note on there. But even a little personalized thank you cards. We all have little cards in our office. They could be a blank card that you buy at the store, or we have archdiocese cards, but having a little card and just doing a personal thank you, putting a drawing from a kid that's benefiting from the program inside the card, framing something, drawing from a kid and just writing at the bottom, thank you so much. This child was able to go to camp, and here's his reflection on what your donation made possible by his drawing. Little things like that, people appreciate so much. And again, documenting. I don't know how many times I've repeated that, but documenting is really important. More tips and tricks. Well, important to remember that for us Catholics, our work and fundraising is for the good of the church and God. So let's keep him at the center of that. Yes, Catholics and the Bible talk about giving 10%. We all know that that's not happening in all of our parishes. So at least we can keep stewardship and God and everything that we do at the center of everything. So we didn't spend a lot of time on that aspect today, but obviously we are the eparchy and the Catholic Archdiocese. So it goes without saying, even though I am saying it, that God should be at the center of all of that. Recruit, I said that earlier, recruits people for specific tasks versus overwhelming when you're building a committee. You'll have some that will want to do everything. You know who those keeners are. But there are some that just have those special skills that you only want them for one thing. Consider your most needed skills. Consider succession planning. So one of the best committees that I've seen was a committee of 3. But that can certainly work with a committee of 20. But even though it was a small committee of 3, they always had last year's chair and next year's chair on the committee, and they alternated the roles. But there was never a panic every year when the fundraiser came up, because they knew who was the next one to chair it, and the past person was always on there for history and knowledge and what didn't work last year, what we need to do more of. So making sure that you consider succession planning, I think, is crucial where it makes sense. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. Next slide. Oh man, I have a lot of tips and tricks, don't I, Ben?
Yeah.
This would apply more for bigger campaigns, but having a communication plan. I'm sure, Ben, you're also the communication guy at the eparchy. Knowing in advance in your campaign that you're going to do a social media post 2 weeks before the campaign, that you're going to have an email that goes out before kickoff, that you're going to have a letter, an appeal letter to request for donation, that you might use the newsletter to recognize some of your volunteers and bigger donors or whatever it might be. But just putting together a simple communication plan for your campaign will also go a long way, even on a small piece of paper, all the way to a very sophisticated plan that you could do for a bigger campaign. Relax, be yourself, and be happy. it shows to the donor. When you go to the donor and you're confident and you know what you're talking about because you've done your research, you know who it's going to help, you're already a donor to the campaign because you believe in it, that confidence will show to people, and they will want to join you in your passion in what you're trying to achieve. And be happy. If you're going in front of the donor and you're completely stressed and you got a bunch of bullets in front of you because you're afraid to forget what you're talking about, just relax and be yourself. Give, donate, learn new things, adapt along the way. So it's good to do. I always did a mid-campaign review, for example, where I would kind of stop everything in the middle of the campaign and say, okay, we're halfway through. What is working well? Are we where we were supposed to be? Have we forgotten anything? Or do we need to take a significant course correction and find a new way of raising the funds because it appears that donating puppies is not the right thing to do? Of course, I'm making up stuff as I go, but making sure that you have that flexibility to adjust and involve your priest because it's not working, or call the archdiocese or the eparchy to get somebody like you and I to maybe go to one of their committee meetings and reflect with them on what's working or not working. Of course, an analysis at the end would be valuable too, and you can document that, but having a mid-campaign analysis can make a big difference. And nowadays, there are millions of tools on the internet, Ben. Literally, I had Sacred Heart Church of the First People that needs to raise $2 million to rebuild their church that has burnt down. And they came here with their committee and they were lost. And really, I utilized tools that were already available. I gave them tips and tricks like I'm giving you today, but I gave them an idea of how to build a case for giving. I gave them an idea of how to build a communication plan. And all those tools came from the internet, from other people smarter than me, that I've been doing this for a year, that I've been able to reduce it to a very easy 6-step formula. Fill this out and you will have a case for giving kind of thing. Well, a month later, they came back with a committee of 30 people, a case for giving, a plan for their campaign, an appeal letter, and they're on their way. And I'm sure they're not going to have any problem, even in the middle of COVID, raising $2 million because, first of all, indigenous things, and it's the church for the whole country. So they have an appeal across the whole country. But just a few tips and tricks got them going in the right direction. For them, it's big. For you, maybe it's a $500 campaign. But at the end of the day, knowing that there's tools out there that can help you, don't reinvent the wheel. Use spreadsheets, use other people's letters and change the words. It doesn't matter. You can do all of that. And what I would say too is include this in your resume, especially if you're a younger generation and you're just building your resume. Put it on your LinkedIn. You were the president or the chair of this committee, and you have learned these skills that maybe you weren't accustomed to before. Maybe you weren't a salesperson before, and now all of a sudden you know how to build arguments. Almost treat it as a job. Give yourself some credit for what you have done. Maybe you have led a committee for the first time and you've proven leadership by doing that. Add a little quote or a testimonial from your priest or something like that. But these are all things that can help you build yourself, build your confidence, and in a way, build your resume for the future. Next slide. I'm going to quickly go through this because really the sky is the limit when it comes to special events, Ben. I just tried to think of types of special events, and they range from easy to organize to very complicated to organize, and they'll range from good money in the fundraising side to very difficult to raise money. So you will have to create that formula where you are trying to do the best fundraising possible with the smallest amount of resources or work or constant attention to the project. So recently I've heard of a concert in a Catholic parish where Catholic music will be played, We're currently, for example, Ben, and maybe that's useful to you because we are partners. We're building a relationship and doing a first-time program with our Christian radio stations here in the city, actually in the coming weeks. So we're hoping to grow that relationship, and maybe the eparchy can be part of it as we move forward. But having a concert with proceeds to your parish or something of that nature, the good news about special events is people don't feel like they're contributing. They feel like they're buying something or they're getting something in return. Not the bad news, but the other side of that coin is that you don't get a receipt for special events. So there's advantages on both sides. It's just like sponsorship. So if somebody sponsors our golf tournament, they get to write that off in their books. It's actually better than a tax receipt, depending on how your accountant puts that in your books. We can still provide, but you don't get a tax receipt because when you're doing sponsorship, you're kind of buying advertising. So you're getting something in return. So the CRA do not allow that. Now, there are rules out there where, you know, if you do your dinner at the eparchy every year, a certain percent of the cost of the meal is not receivable, but anything above that can be receivable depending on how you run your things. But those are always things to remember. You mentioned your pierogi dinners is often one of the popular fundraisers. I can understand that because anything with food, I'm there, Ben. Food is good. So number two is bake sales, paid potluck, food trucks. I've seen with proceeds. So there are certain food trucks out there that will give you back 10% of what they sell or something of that nature. Barbecue and picnics are great ways to get people together. If you can get the food donated, even better. You got more proceeds. I did mention Wine Survivor on there. I'm not always in the Catholic world. We don't like to talk about alcohol. Wine seems to be an okay one. And I know in my past world is one of the most popular fundraisers. So if you want to learn more about that, let me know. But basically, people provide an amount of money, let's say $10 per person and a bottle of wine. And everybody brings that in and you have an elimination process. And at the end of this, either one person or if an alliance was created, I lost to an alliance last time of 8 ladies that beat me to get all these bottles of wines, and they use them as Christmas gifts. And obviously it works very good around the holidays, but you would be amazed how much money and competition and fun we created in the process. People were buying immunities so they could stay in the contest. We did all kinds of silly things, but obviously, little things like 50-50s, raffle, auctions, cash calls. Remember that 50-50 in raffles, you do have to apply for a license at gaming. I know we can help with that, but you can certainly do it. It's a 5-minute process, and then you have to report back your results at the end and give your ticket numbers and all that kind of stuff. So those are often easy ways to raise money. Then selling products, car wash, bottle drives, taxes. I did not mean taxing people there, so I think I should change that one. What I mean by that is I saw a very creative group of people. This was actually in a parish with, I think it was 5 individuals that offered to do people's taxes. And instead of taking money from those folks, a donation went to that parish. So we'll charge you $50, we'll do your taxes, but the $50 is actually a donation to the parish. So there's things out there that people would pay for no matter what. And if you're able to work around those, people won't even feel like it's a fundraiser. They were going to get their taxes done anyways. And you know what? They've just helped a couple of children attend a seminar or an event in the process, right? Golf tournaments. I've even seen virtual golf tournaments. There are places, the number of them in the city where you can go, and it's like a real golf game, but you're inside, there's food involved, and there's all kinds of things, and there's ways to raise stuff there. Lately, I've seen a lot of, before COVID, I guess, group date nights where people would arrange this extravagant night, maybe even with a limousine, a concert, a supper, and they would charge so much per person, and it would be more than the amount required to pay for all these items, and then the difference would go to the charity. At the end of the day, these are just examples. Yes, you can do pierogi dinners, and I love kielbasa. Invite me to your pierogi dinner. The little dill dumplings are my favorite if you want to
Yes.
make me happy. But using your creativity or the creativity of your team is really the best thing. The best events have come out of nowhere. They're the events that a group says, I want to do this, I heard of this, and all of a sudden you're building something that means something to you. And I find when people are involved, they tend to participate. And when people have input, they tend to participate. So that's what I would say about events. And then my last couple of slides, very quickly, are more important reminders for events and other things. But remember what is tax receivable or not. And if you need information, there's lots on the CRA website, or talk to anybody in the charitable world. There are some basic rules. Most of the money that you raise, or as much as possible, should go to the program. For example, the acceptable standard for Revenue Canada is that at least 65% of what you raise should go towards the program. Doesn't mean that I'm suggesting that 35% should go to cost, but in some cases it makes sense. And people should focus on the impact of the donations versus the cost of donations. I've seen people that have a 25% cost but can't deliver impact. I've seen people that have a 5% cost and have amazing impact. Or I've seen it where people have a higher cost and people are like, they're hesitant, but you know what? The impact that they create out of that 78% of funds is much bigger than the impact that somebody would create at 5% costs. So don't just look at that. And there's a great TED Talk and many articles that you can read about that. But focusing on the return on investment will be crucial. So easy to organize events with big revenue. Get items and prizes donated where you can. That makes a huge difference, because then your cost for the event will go down significantly. Recruit people. Like I have silent auction where I recruit people just to work on the silent auction. They don't need to be on the big committee. They can just be in charge of the silent auction. Plan early, and write down your plan and timeline. Even a simple plan on a piece of paper, handwritten, is better than nothing, because then you know where you're going. There's lots of people that are much better than me than working off the cuff. But you'll see from everything in my office that lists of lists is my style, and making sure I don't forget things. Apply for licenses where it's needed, and let's move on maybe to the last one. I think it's the last one. Always remember the 5 W's of marketing. I guess you can forget if you want to, but the who, what, when, and where is very important, especially if you're writing your plan. Even if you just start with those 5 questions: who am I inviting? What am I trying to organize? When am I going to be doing this? Do I have a spot to do this? And how am I going to be doing this? Are all very important things. And again, I'm repeating myself, but set various goals, thank everybody, and keep track of everything you're doing for the next person. So that's kind of my tips and tricks and some of the things that I've learned over the last 25 years. I know it's a lot, but grab 2 or 3 things, grab the whole thing, whatever you feel like. How does it feel for you, Ben, after, I
No,
guess,
I
about
like,
an hour?
yeah, I like the steps point out here to really clear and concise. But of course, the big thing is learn, right? To do these things, you've got to be learning, right? Every single day I'm learning new things. And if you just keep that mindset going, Rome wasn't built in one day. So if every single year you find something to improve on, you keep doing that every year, down the line, your fundraising is going to be very easy to do. So.
And don't be afraid to ask. I know that, like in your question, you said, well, how do we do it in a small rural parish with only 40 people? And I don't think it's very different. I think some of the steps might be much shorter, but you still got to have a little bit of a plan and a little bit of a case for giving and a little bit of a communication strategy. That's really, even if it's 3 steps, I will put something in the bulletin. I will recruit 2 people to help me go talk to people, and I will report back at the end. I mean, all the way to a very complicated fundraising strategy. But keep it real, people. Keep it simple. Learn from others. Don't try to reinvent. Fundraising has been done in one fashion or another for over 2,000 years. So be adventurous and have fun doing it is really my advice.
Yeah, so perfect. I just want to thank Stefan so much for your time. A lot of information was put out here. If you're in the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Edmonton, feel free to shoot him some contact information too, and which that'll appear on the screen. And then if you have any questions too, if you're in the Eparchy of Edmonton in Alberta, feel free to send me a contact as well. And yeah,